Hi, how are you today? Welcome to our class number 13. I'm very excited today because we're going to make a jacket and I love it because it's easy and it's a cut that, it suits most people and you can make with many different fabrics. So if you choose like a cool print or something, you look great because the cut, it falls really nice. Um, First, if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe, give a like, and share with your friends. If you know somebody that would love to learn sewing, please let them know. Okay? Yeah. So here's the thing: this jacket, it's so simple. It's like a boxy cut. You could definitely just copy from. If you have like a boxy top, you can use as a template and then make the jacket. But I did make a pattern for you. So if you need a pattern, find in the link below and then download the pattern and you can make it. But if not, you can just make yourself, okay? Let me show you what materials we're gonna use today. Here. So here is what we're gonna, need really, like scissors, obviously. The sewing machine, the thread, and measuring tape. I'm not sure we're gonna need. Sewing pins, the seam ripper, the snip, and the tailor's chalk, right? I like this one that's you can switch different colors and it's like a pencil, so I love it. Okay, and then the pattern. Here's the pattern. It's very simple. It looks huge, but then when it's done, it's not that big. So it's just a few parts. The pocket, two facings, and the sleeves, and then the body of the jacket. All right. The fabric I'm going to use today is this wool. I don't know if you've seen another class that I did that was like the wide leg pants. And so I had another panel of the same fabric and I thought it would be awesome. I actually got this fabric for a jacket. My plan was to make a jacket and I got three pieces. They're like panels. So I got three of them and then I'll have one left. So this is the one I'm going to use today. And let's start cutting it, right? I want to talk to you. Let me put this on the side here, the small parts. I want to just mention something in this pattern. This is the first draft, so it's not totally perfect, okay? And then one thing I want to say, there's a couple things I want to mention. One is don't tell the pattern makers that I did this because you're not supposed to have the same piece, like the same cut for the front and the back. Our bodies are different in the front and the back. So a good pattern, when it's fitted, you need to have like the armhole has to be proper, with the back and stuff. But since this is very loose and like boxy, it doesn't really matter. It will look fine either way. Okay, so you're gonna use it's one pattern for the front and for the back, and the only difference is the neck cut, the neckline here. So the front is the lower one, and the back is the high one. The higher one. That's it. Okay, and you just use the same, and you can try. I'll show you how I cut that. And the other thing is, how. So the pattern already has seam allowance all around it. And how you're going to cut it is the front is two parts, right? Two parts of this, two sides, and it's open. And then the back, you don't need a seam in the center back, right? Unless you do need, if you have a fabric that you need to like piece together and it's, and then you're going to have two sides, then you need the seam allowance. But if not, you just place this on fold. But the line, it will be like the dotted line here, see, for the back, because you don't need seam allowance in the back. That's all. And then this is where you place the pockets, and that's it. So, one thing I want to mention is when you download the pattern, make sure you you measure the test square. I don't have my ruler here, but you have to make sure this test square is 2 inches by 2 inches. So make sure your printer is printing correctly. That's why I have the test square in the first page of the PDF. Print this one first, then you measure, make sure it's printing in the right scale. Make sure the scale is 100%. Because if you put more or less than 100%, then you'll mess up the pattern. Okay? Just as a reminder. Now let's see how we're going to cut this fabric. Since it's like a panel like this, I wanted the colorful part. Yeah, I think this is a good, this is like a tree or something. Yeah, so I think this is good for my front, this tree, up like this. And then, actually I'm gonna cut the dark one because I think it's more, for fall is gonna be more fun. Just try to align so the grain line is correct. And let me see. Probably somewhere like this. Yes, so I'm just gonna place, make sure the grain line is correct. And then I'm gonna place the front right on the edge. See on the fold. And I do need the seam allowance here because I'm gonna sew the lining, the facing. Okay, so I need that seam allowance right there. My seam allowance is like 1/2 inch. If you're used to work with a little more, let me know, because I've started doing these patterns and you know I don't have a standard yet for them. So okay, so I'm gonna pin them on my fabric. I'm gonna pin the pattern down just to hold it, because you see how there is the marks for the pocket. I want to punch, not punch, but you know, make a hole here so then it's marked correctly. Okay, so there's just a couple notches that you have to be mindful of, and one is right here. Can you see it there? Yeah, so see how I need to do the round cut here, right? And it's, I can't really like trace it. So what I'm gonna do is I just mark down here, and then you can cut it if you want to, or just make another one, copy, you know, and make a little. But basically I just trace it like that. And that's the thing about this pattern, you can play around with it. It's not gonna make much difference. And here's my notch. This notch is for my facing. Yeah, I mean, I'm placing on fold, but it's not the front, it's the back. So you don't need to be on fold. I'm gonna cut in half in the center front. Here's the other notch. This is just the notch for the sleeve. Okay, so I have this as an owl. I forgot to mention in the beginning that can make the hole. So I just punch it here, hold it from the bottom. This owl makes like very big holes. You might not want to have something like this. I got this at Joann's, but in New York I have like a thinner one. I think it's better because this one makes such big holes. Done. I'll cut it. Mark the notch here. And then the front I'm just going to split in two. Okay, then my notch, that's the sleeve notch. So we can put this one on the side and then move on to cut our back. It's kind of bright, it's pretty. Make sure the grain line is aligned. This one is on top of the other. All right, so that, remember how I said, right? So I don't need the seam allowance. I'm gonna line the center back with the seam allowance line here, look. Okay, and then trace it. This one's easy. And I didn't put a notch on the back collar because it doesn't really need it. It's just about the center back. This notch I want to mark. And that's it. Doesn't it? I'm not putting pockets on the back. So we're done with the front, with the body. And I'm gonna cut it. Woo. So, and what I said is I didn't put a notch here. You can just do a little snip here for the center back. That will help with when you're sewing the facing. Great. So now we have the back. Look how pretty. Kind of cool, right? So then now we should do the sleeves. I don't have much left. Since I don't have much fabric left, I'm just gonna use what I have here, not thinking much of the grain line. I'm just gonna make sure I cut two sides, right? And they're the same, really. You don't have to worry about right side, wrong side here because it's either side works actually. Mark the notch. All right, so that's one sleeve. Almost didn't make it there, but it did. And now let's see if I have room for another one. You know, when I'm cheating a little because I'm not even thinking of the grain line, but this fabric is very like straight and, you know, heavy. So any side, I'm not gonna cut on bias, obviously. I'm just cutting across, so it's fine. Just make sure you don't. But this jacket's so simple that anything you do will be fine. You know, one cool thing, one cool idea that I thought for this jacket is to do with if you want to recycle jeans, you know, old pairs of jeans. It's a great cut to do one of those. You probably see on Pinterest those jackets that they recycle denim, right? All right. Now, next, I'm gonna cut the pockets. Two pockets. And then the pocket, I didn't put any notch here, but it just marked the sides where the folding line is. All right. And mark the notches here. It's for the folding line of the pocket. So this is gonna be the pocket. It's kind of cool. I think it'll work well with the jacket. So sleeves, pockets, and then I just need the facings. And I think I have enough for my facings, which will probably be this like cream color. It's perfect. Then you need two of these. If you're a beginner, I recommend you to pin the pattern on the fabric so it doesn't move. Okay, I marked the notch here. That's the same, you know, that would match the collar, remember? Then we got the front facing, and now all we need is the back facing. That's also supposed to be placed on fold. Just place on fold. Yay, we have the back facing. So we have the whole piece cut now. This I'll just save it for later. I might make something else. And we can start sewing. Let me get the ironing pad. And for this, you need a very hot with iron with steam because I would need it because my fabric is very thick. So I'm gonna do the zigzag, especially because this fabric frays a lot. So I'm gonna do the zigzag and you know, all over. So the front, all sides, all center front I don't need because I have this, but Sides, the back, yeah, basically the sides and the facings, and then the pockets will make, we have to work with it. But so the first thing is to do the finishing for the facings, right? Because the facings, all right, the facing is a if it has to be, think about this is going to be like on the back of the inside, right, of the jacket, but you wanted this to be looking nice. And also, you know that the how the facing works is like this is the back and this will be the front, and this just like they are together here. So that part I'm going to do now, and then I can do the finishing for the facing and then have the facing ready. So first thing, I'm just attaching them together. And then I can press open the seams. Open my seams here. Okay, and the next step, I'm gonna do the zigzag, or actually this one, I'll do zigzag, but I'm gonna do also a very tiny hem. Because then, you know, the facing always shows a little inside, so I don't want to be like ugly. Look, now it's working. Okay. So that's the part that's, so, you know, will be like sewn to the piece, and the outside is not. So that's the part that I'm gonna fold. And how I do is starting from this bottom, and I'll just do a tiny little hem, zigzag all the way. And as I'm finishing, and that's that. Look, the curvy part is a little tricky, but you can do, then you press, you know, just go slowly. And keep in mind this, it's inside, it's gonna be inside of the coat, so it's not even. For me, this one I'm gonna put it for sale, so that's why I wanna make like a kind of a cool, a good finishing, you know, I don't wanna be like. Okay, so then next we are going to do the zigzag on the body or the sleeves. Let's start from the sleeves. So basically the sleeves, where I need is the, you know, the armhole, which is a straight thing, it doesn't even look like an armhole, and the bottom. So basically the sleeve is not, the only part of the sleeve that I don't need zigzag is the cuff. Everything else I need, and then the sides of the body of the jacket. I'm gonna start from one side. And so the back is huge, but here's the back. I'm gonna zigzag the shoulders and the sides. And same thing with the front, the shoulders and the sides, and the middle, the center front I don't need, and also the hem I don't need, okay? All right, so we have it all zigzagged. And now we're just gonna prepare the pieces to sew them together, right? We're gonna, remember how we have a notch, right? So I want to iron this folded like that to mark my the folding line of my pocket. Yep. So just marking the line here. And what my mother does, there's a little not straight, so I'm going to trim it. What my mother taught me is that you put a piece of, let me grab the pattern itself and you see. So if this is like cardboard, something, you know, it could be like watercolor paper or something that's stronger. And then you fold like this and iron it. It works with regular paper too, but if you have a heavier weight, it's better, okay? My mother, you know, always made a living. Now she's retired, but she used to sew for companies. and she was specialized in coats. So the amount of pockets that my mother sewed on coats in her life is countless, and that's how they always done. I always do by hand, but it helps if you're, especially if you're a beginner. And then what they do is that they cut the size of the paper exactly like this square. If you're doing production, and then you can just have it in there and then iron it over, and then when you sew it's ready. Okay, so there's one of our pockets. Look how cute. And then this one. And yeah, I'm just doing like half an inch, about half an inch here, allowance. And it's good if when you have, I don't know if you have tried those commercial iron. All right, so we have two pockets. And really the pocket is the first thing we're going to work with, right? Because we have to sew the pocket on the piece. And but first we got to prepare the pocket. So the first step is going to be to sew the folding line. So this is the pocket. I'm going to fold this here, just the top stitch over here. So then my folding line, the top of the pocket is done. And I could have ironed this as well, but I haven't. But if you, I gotta go back to straight stitch. So those are the sleeves. I can leave on the side. I'm gonna grab my fronts. So it's something like this, look, but on the front. All right. Okay, so then I just want to place my pockets there. Make sure it's all lined up and nicely positioned. And then I'll pin it. All right. All right, got rid of those. And now I can do the top stitch on my pockets. So I'm just gonna stitch, do great reverse here, and then go all the way around it. Yay, that's it. So we got the two front parts. One side, the other side. And now we can put it together. So now we're gonna sew I always start from the shoulders, right? So I'm gonna join the back shoulder to the front shoulder. So here's the back. One shoulder, the other shoulder. And because this jacket's crazy, it looks huge, but you see at the end it'll be fine. So I'm gonna join right sides together. Here, two shoulders. And I pin it so I don't get confused right here. And it starts to take shape. So I'm just going to, half an inch seam allowance and then join them together. And that's that. They're joined. And then I gotta press it open, the seams. So the shoulder is nice looking. One thing we can do now is either I could add the sleeves or the facings. I think I'm gonna do the facings first because then there's the pieces lighter than when the sleeves are on. Okay, so the less material I have to work with, the better for me. Okay. Then here's the deal. The lining, the facing. I keep saying lining, but it's not lining, it's facing. So my facing is going here, right? Remember how, so just so you can visualize it, it's something that's gonna sit back here. and then attach the notches, and then all the way down, right? But I gotta sew right sides together, right? So then it finished like this. So then, and I do that all the time. That's how I figure things out usually. I know that the final position is like this, so then I just flip it, and then I know if I sew here, when I flip it over, we'll be in the right position, okay? That's how I try to. Then I'm gonna place a pin. I just make sure my notches are kind of right. So the seam here on the shoulder have to match the both seams, and then my notch, and then all the way to the bottom. So I'm gonna start sewing from here all the way to the other side, okay? Okay, woohoo! So here it is. One thing, so then it's all together. One thing I want to do now, I even had to do a little snip before so the notches would match, just to stretch a little. And I'm going to do even more now. My little scissors. So, you know, where it's curvy, it's always good to snip a little. Don't cut your seam, but just makes the outside smooth after you flip it out. Okay, let's see how this is looking. Oh yeah, here you can also snip a little the corner, so there's less material, both sides. Flip this side, the other side. And that's that. That's beautiful. It worked. So then we have to press, but first, before pressing, I'm going to, because I have to put more water in my iron, I'm going to attach the sleeves, right? So there it is. And the same thing like I did the other time, like you just look and see how it's going to look. You know, remember the sleeve has a notch, even though I did the zigzag, but the notch is still here. So the notches will match here. Look, the front and the back. And the same thing on this side. Then you just decide which side you like, but basically that's that. Or I could do this one here and that one there, but it's all blue. Yeah, I'll do like this, okay? So then just put the right sides together, matching notches, and sew it together. Finished it. Now it's time to iron it. So I'm just gonna press the seams open, the sleeve seams. Okay, so now we're just gonna sew the sides, which is easy, right? Just go all the way. Look, here's the sleeve. Sew, and then after sewing, we snip the underarm a little so it doesn't hold it down. Okay, and the other side. Finishing up. And voila, it's done. I mean, it needs the hemming. And I'm gonna press open. one of my sides is a little longer, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Remember how I said snip it? Here's where you go, because you made a little corner, right? Then you go and cut it here. Look, no fear, just cut it. Don't cut your seam, but that will release the underarm. It's like magic. Yeah, there's this here that I have to figure it out now. And then the facing. So the facing basically is the same thing. You just press it open. I'm gonna show one side and then the other side you do it, okay? I'm gonna go all the way up here, opening my seam. And I know the idea is to fold it, but when you open it, see how smooth it looks. Then you can do the final press. Depends on your fabric. You could put interfacing on your facing. I don't like interfacing much, but sometimes it's necessary, so it doesn't stretch and stay in place. You can also do a top stitch here. Okay. And then the round part, we just go slowly and press it, not showing the lining, the facing. There. Look. And that's pretty much it. Look. Okay, I did just one side so you don't get bored, but here's the jacket. All right, so that's should look like this at the end after you press all this part. And see how it's nice? Just press it here. I'm not gonna top stitch this because I think it's looking great. What I'm gonna do is to like stitch, just do a hand stitch here to hold this facing inside, okay, so it doesn't flip. And here I just want to press. If necessary, I'll also do a little stitch here, like an invisible one. All right, and then the last thing, which then is up to you how you do, but you just do the hem on the bottom. And since there's this part, right, there's many different ways to do the hem when it's a blazer and it's like a fancy piece. But this one, you don't need to do anything fancy. You really just fold it like this, or you fold first like this and then like that. Look, I think this is how I'm gonna do, okay? And the same thing, iron first and then fold it here, do the top stitch, and the sleeve, the same thing, the cuff. You can iron, it's like, you know, it's up to you how much you want to fold. I'll probably do like 1/2 inch or something, 3/4, and then fold it, iron first, fold it, and do the top stitch. So the hem I ended up doing like this, and I think it worked well. And then the pocket, I just decided to do an inseam pocket because I thought I didn't like how the pocket was placed right on top of my print. So I just did this one and I cut it. I took a piece of fabric and cut this one, and I included this pattern with the PDF as well. So if you have a choice, you can either do the inseam or the patch over the front. All right, that's the jacket. So if you have any questions, leave in the comments or send me a message on Instagram. All the links are below. And yeah, this is our jacket. Look, I hope you enjoy. And let me know what you like to learn next time. Next week, I'll bring something new for you. All right? Thank you so much for joining the class.